So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's Rock Your LinkedIn Profile workshop hosted by the Department of University Advancement's Alumni Mentors Program. This afternoon's virtual webinar, you will hear directly from the team at LinkedIn how to empower your career impact and utilize the LinkedIn platform as an effective engagement and learning tool. Before we get started, I'd just like to go over a few housekeeping items. My name is Jennifer Gray. I'm an Alumni Relations Officer in the Department of University Advancement, and it is my absolute pleasure to oversee the Alumni Mentors Program. Throughout the academic year, in addition to our mentorship pairings, the Mentors Program hosts monthly workshops on goal setting, professional development, and practical life skills. Our Mentors Program would not be made possible without the support of hundreds of Carleton alumni who volunteer each year to support our Carleton students and recent graduates. Especially in this trying year, we are more grateful for their support than ever. We are also supported by the Carleton University Alumni Association and by the Carleton University Students Association. I should also note that today's session will be recorded for the benefit of our Alumni Mentors community members who could not join us here today. We are proud to have partnered with Jennifer and Freya from LinkedIn to deliver you a special presentation for our Carleton community. Jennifer Catallo has spent the past 20 years cultivating skills in e-learning, from teaching across higher education institutions, including Humber College and the University of Toronto, to consulting on K-12 and higher education e-learning software with companies like Brightspace. Jennifer is an account executive for LinkedIn Learning Higher Education Canada, working with 60+ universities and colleges to develop strategic partnerships with LinkedIn and LinkedIn Learning. We are also joined today by Freya Zhang, Customer Service Manager at LinkedIn Learning. Freya partners with higher education institutions across Ontario and focuses on providing supports to help her clients and learners get the most out of LinkedIn and LinkedIn Learning. Today's presentation will be broken up into 3 modules with a 5-minute exercise following each theme. If you'd like to participate in the exercises, we welcome you to have your LinkedIn profile open in a separate web browser. If you have questions you'd like Jennifer and Freya to explore, we welcome you to type them in the Q&A box. We'll try our best to cover all of your burning LinkedIn questions during the exercise portions and during the Q&A at the end. For those of you who have tuned in live, at the end of the session, Jennifer and Freya have graciously provided 3 of today's students in our virtual audience with a chance to win a one-on-one profile consultation, and 3 of the alumni mentors and members in our audience with a 6-month subscription to LinkedIn Learning. If you cannot stay right until the end, not to worry, your name will still be entered into my virtual hat and I'll follow up with you afterwards. That is enough out of me. Without further ado, please welcome Jennifer and Freya from LinkedIn to our virtual stage.
Thank you, Jennifer. I'm so excited to welcome you all to the Rock Your Profile, a program we run at LinkedIn to help educate students, members, customers, nonprofits, employment agencies on really how to build an effective profile that tells your professional story and connect you to opportunity on LinkedIn. Before we dive in, let me give you a better idea of how we're going to be using time today and what you can expect from this session. So, as Jennifer mentioned, it is going to be a 3-part session. We're going to spend the first part of the session really discussing why. Why spend your time on LinkedIn? We'll then move into uncovering a couple of key strategies to help you network on LinkedIn using a lens I like to call serving up value to others. And then finally, we're going to explore LinkedIn Learning and identify not only LinkedIn Learning as a potential alternative resource for you to use to gain knowledge and certifications, but really as a platform to potentially further cultivate networking. So with all of that in mind, what I'd like to do is start off with the key question: why LinkedIn? LinkedIn's mission is essentially to create economic opportunity for everyone. With all of the data that you see on this slide, from 722 million members to 115,000 schools, LinkedIn has unique insights into the world of work. And LinkedIn is essentially creating a digital representation of the global economy to ascertain things like, what are the most in-demand skills? What are the trending and fastest growing skills? Where are companies hiring? Who are they hiring? What roles and what opportunities exist? LinkedIn essentially is partnering with world leaders, the IMF and world associations, to analyze labor markets and recommend policy solutions to prepare for the global workforce, for the jobs of the future. And it is through these insights that we hope to help connect people to opportunity one member at a time. Understanding the power of LinkedIn can help you to understand really why you would want to spend time on it. So Freya is going to put a link in the chat that will link you to our economic graph and some of the details that you can find there and the data that's available to you to better understand this power. Maybe you're looking for a job. Maybe you're looking to build a network. Maybe you're looking to learn something new. Maybe you're looking to start to explore and build your own content. Maybe you're looking to recruit people into projects or opportunities. Maybe you're even looking for a mentor, what I like to call my own board of directors. Whatever your why is, all of these objectives have one thing in common, and that is to begin with a solid foundation, which is your LinkedIn profile. And really the way we find the most effective approach to see your profile is to see it as your story. And there are two key reasons why your LinkedIn profile is the foundation to any engagement you have on LinkedIn. Number one, your profile is a living document. You can create it and iterate on your profile, and that in and of itself is an exercise in reflecting on your goals, your objectives, your passions, what purpose you have in your professional life. What is your story and what drives you? When I initially started on LinkedIn, rarely took the time to ask myself those questions. I use LinkedIn as basically a replication of my resume, not an effective strategy. So there are a great many people who have the experience that I do in the learning industry. So what is it that really I can provide that differentiates myself? So on my profile, I try to make it really clear that my passion comes from working as an entrepreneur, that my passion comes from being a leader without really any formal authority, and most importantly, champion others. This is how I differentiate myself. That is the key to my story on my profile. The second reason you want to ensure that your profile is set up for success to enable you to do all the other things capable on LinkedIn is to make sure that you allow others to decide if they want to connect with you. Knowing your story and having a clear idea regarding your passion and your goals is going to help others decide if they want to connect, help decide if you're an applicant worth exploring, if you're an individual who prioritizes learning. If your profile is essentially the first step in establishing your story, your brand, and your professional identity on LinkedIn. And in so doing, it's also the place where you add credibility so that other interactions that you have on the platform are much more valuable. So as I'm sure most of you have experienced, the profile has a number of different components. We're just going to quickly dive through a couple of these to give you some tips and tricks on how to ensure that you're making the most of your profile. Starting with a photo. A photo is a really important component for a number of reasons. The first of which is that it ensures that someone sees you as a human being. Make sure you select a photo that truly represents you. If you're a smiley person, then smile in that photo. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to tell the professional community who you are. It can be a professional headshot, but it doesn't have to be. Mine isn't. You can snap one from your phone. That's what I did, just making sure that you have the appropriate light in the background. And in fact, there are some photo filters that you can make use of on LinkedIn as well. After adding a photo, the next important thing is adding industry, but I wanted to highlight a couple of new features if you haven't seen them yet. The first one is this new feature that allows you to pronounce your name. It's a really great way to own your presence on LinkedIn and help others in pronouncing your name correctly. Using the little pencil icon near your photo, you can edit that section and pronounce your name and basically introduce people to your profile. In mine, it says, hello, I'm Jennifer Catallo. Others have used it to add additional components like, hi, my name is, I can't wait for you to explore my profile. In addition to this feature, a new feature is actually going to be promoted today, and it's a welcome video that you can add. So you can take that video component and that audio component one step further by giving a much more 3D perspective around your professional story. Unlike the traditional resume, which is the, the 2-page standard document, this is something that you can iterate and really play with. As I previously mentioned, one of the key areas that people often miss is industry. So in that same top section where you would edit your profile picture, as well as edit that record name pronunciation, there's an add industry feature. This is one of the ways that people can find you on LinkedIn. They can search keywords and specifically search for industries. Members with industry information are discovered 38 times more in recruiter searches. I've changed my industry a couple of times. So you can always go in and iterate on your industry, but it's definitely something I would ensure that you have on your profile. For me, perhaps the most challenging and yet rewarding piece of the profile is the summary or about section. And the reason I say it's rewarding and challenging is because this is a section where you can take the time to reflect. It is often identified as that elevator pitch, but for me, it's really about understanding what my objectives are, what my aspirations are, how I bring a unique set of talents or could bring a unique set of talents to an organization. Really keeping it nice, short and sweet, using some keywords associated with the skills that you have, and having it in paragraph form to really highlight what drives you and how you can contribute to an organization is key to drafting a compelling summary. The next area is your work experience. Experience section is the opportunity for you to continue to tell that professional story and talk about your accomplishments within and across each of the roles that you have. I often suggest a short paragraph under each experience is sufficient. You can always add a couple of bullets if you see fit. The majority should really read like a story. I think it's great to talk about what you do in your role or what you've done in your role, but it's much more significant to showcase the impact that you've had. What are the results that you delivered? What's the change that you created? Having some kind of tangible output and demonstrating that, as in this example, with this sales professional who grew the line of business $20 million in revenue delivering solutions. So really being clear about the deliverables that you have and the change that you've made and the impact that you've had. What you'll see across the work experience section is, and a number of other sections on the profile, is your opportunity to tell that 3-dimensional story of yourself. So you can use rich media, a photo, video, a presentation, anything that has the opportunity to visually enhance your profile and make it more dynamic. Help people connect to what you're doing by adding this rich media to enable them to really explore all of the things that you have accomplished. In addition, you can include things like your volunteer experiences and your causes, which further support that larger story that you're telling. But the last component I want to speak to, which will tie into the next section, which is really focused on networking, are the skills and endorsements section. So you want to add skills for 2 big reasons. One, adding skills can get you more profile views. Oftentimes professionals will use skills to search through LinkedIn, but also skills are a great way for recruiters to determine if you're a good match as a potential applicant. You have full control over the skills on your profile, and you can choose what order you display them and who can and cannot endorse you. My recommendation is to have at least 5 skills that are associated with hard skills, so softwares, and any 5 skills that are associated with professional skills like team building, adaptability, communication. They're a quick way to showcase what you're good at and the keywords that can be used throughout your profile to help you in a recruiter search become a top applicant. We're going to talk about endorsements and how to actually get endorsements in a way that feels more meaningful for me. And we're going to do that in the networking section. But before we get there, I'd like to ask you to engage in a quick little exercise. We'll take a couple of minutes. And what I'd like you to do is identify 5 to 10 skills for your field of interest. And we have this great tool that gives you full access to lists of skills associated with different jobs and the way those potential job titles correlate with other titles. Freya's going to share the link to this Career Explorer tool. When you select on that link, you can scroll down to the bottom of the page and you can identify, and I'll show you quickly here. You can identify a specific job, as I have here, and all of the skills that are associated with that particular role, and any additional role, and any potential skills where there's potential alignment. I'll leave that there and give everyone a couple of minutes to go ahead and go through this exercise of identifying a set of skills they want to ensure that are on their profile.
Hi, Jennifer. While we are waiting for the attendees to get into this link, I think there's really a great question that I like to touch on. That we got a question that so as a student, which kind of industry we should put for our profile? So.
Great question.
Yes,
so,
really good one.
Yeah, so it's gonna depend on the industry that you're in or the industry that you're exploring and want to potentially go into. So if you're a student focused on engineering, you can focus more generically on engineering as an industry, or you can target a specific subsection of that industry. If you're in HR, same thing. I've oscillated between a couple of different industries. So at the moment, I believe I'm focused on technology and education. So that could be a direction you can take, and you can change your industry as you transition through your career.
Yeah, thank you. It's really a great one.
Everyone had a chance to try that Career Explorer tool to identify skills associated with your area of expertise or the field of most interest? Feel free to use the chat to let us know if that's an effective tool for you to use. Oh, I have a great question in the chat that I'm noticing. So I'm going to showcase a couple of things based on this, and then I'll continue with the presentation. So as I mentioned, I entered the job sales account manager just because that's the area I'm in, so that I could verify, are these the types of skills that I have present on my profile, and what are some other potential job or title matches that I might be interested in exploring. And again, what are the skills that translate to those roles? What's great is that you can actually go ahead and locate jobs directly associated with these alternative roles, as well as find direct connections on LinkedIn associated with these roles that are targeting the specific city that you've highlighted here. And then if you go to the sort category, you can see which one has the similarity score that's most closely aligned, and which one is most highly matched. So if I wanted to, I could go through and say, potentially apply for roles that are business development managers, or reach out to people who are these types in these roles to connect with, to learn more about them. You want to make sure that you have those skills on your profile. Your skills, your story. LinkedIn will never put anything on your profile. Those would be up to you to do. All right, let's go ahead and continue. This one is the piece that I'm most excited about, mainly because this is the one I get the most questions about, which is networking. So typically networking is defined as an action or process of interacting with others to exchange information and develop professional or social contacts. But how does this work on LinkedIn? Well, what makes it particularly interesting is that there is these varieties of potential connections. And so there's a web of networks that's available to you. So when you connect with someone on LinkedIn, they're considered your first degree connection. Those who are your first degree connections are your second, those who your first degree connections are connected to are your second degree connections. And those who are your second degree connections, who they are connected to, are your third degree connections. And I'm going to showcase a way that you can actually take advantage of this web of relationships through some of the networking that we're going to dive into. So when forming a professional relationship, what I have found is it is essential to show that you're an asset to another party. When you connect intending to offer value, you give a person a reason to continue with the conversation and to continue to build that relationship. If I feel used from the beginning, I'm not going to necessarily want to continue that relationship. So it's important from my perspective to give before taking when establishing a relationship, particularly with someone new. When giving, you don't have to go over the top. We're going to look at three keys or a strategy in a number of different tips and tricks to help you do this. So considering that you may be networking for different reasons, maybe it's ways to learn about industry, transition in your career, ways to give back, potentially ways to mentor or receive mentorship. I would say that these three steps are going to be instrumental. We're going to start off real simple. We want to find the appropriate people. Then we want to continue to build that relationship once we've found them. And then we want to make sure that we continue to nurture that relationship. So let's begin with finding. There are several ways to connect on LinkedIn, to find people who you may have something in common with, who you can learn something from, who could potentially become someone within your larger or first degree connections. One of the most obvious places to go is actually your company. So for those of you who are currently working or engaged in internships or co-ops, your company page is a great source of information. Finding people to connect with that you have something in common with provides a great foundation for connection. So some of those other places include things like the alumni tool and groups. So we're going to go ahead and actually look at how we would do this to find people on LinkedIn. So in this demonstration, what I'm showcasing here is I work at LinkedIn, part of a Microsoft family. So I'm going to the Microsoft company page. What you'll see here is under the People's tab, I can actually see that there are over 190,000 employees. I can filter where they live, what they do. I can look at what they've studied. I can also look at what skills they have and how I might be connected to them. You'll notice that I have 55 people from Microsoft that are my first degree connection. So I'm connected to them directly. But those 55 people are connected directly to over 12,000 people. So if I have a connection that could potentially make a warm introduction, that would be a great way to build a opportunity. So I can further filter using things like location, what they currently do, and perhaps even what they've studied. In this case, being from a sales background and studying business management, I might find that there's more room for, engagement based on these commonalities. Helps me narrow down the list of people to approximately 18. And then I can see of those people, in this particular example, I have 21 shared connections, where that means that I could potentially reach out to a person in my network and say, hey, it looks like you know so-and-so. Would you be willing to give me a warm introduction? The next place you can go is, of course, your alma mater. So you could go to Carleton, or you can go to any of the other schools you went to. In this example, I'm showcasing having done my undergraduate degree at York University. I'm going to the school page. You'll notice there's a tab, and it's the alumni tab, or what we refer to as the alumni tool. Works very similarly to what we saw with the Microsoft page. We can see that 198,000 people on LinkedIn have identified as having gone to York University. I can further filter across those different people to identify where they live, where they work, what they've studied, and then I can help to narrow down the list of potential people that I might be interested in connecting with. As I scroll through and I find a much more manageable list of alumni, I again can see where I have shared connections to ask for those warm introductions. The final place is really the search. So in the search field, simply using a keyword, let's say sales, human resources, engineering, what that will do is it'll enable you to go through pretty much all of LinkedIn to identify people, different courses, jobs, groups, any posts, events. Perhaps I'm interested in joining an event that speaks to sales, great place to potentially network. In this example, I'm going to go to groups. This was a group I thought would be really interesting, Women in Technology Sales. So I asked to join that group. What is particularly valuable is that within that group, I now have access to over 1,000 members, and I can post in the group and engage with the posts within that group to build potential connections. Once you've found a group of people or a series of people that you want to connect with, now it's about building relationships. So oftentimes people will immediately connect. I have a different strategy. I go through following, sharing, liking, and offering something of value before I connect. Let's see how I do that. So in the example that I had provided earlier, we have our Microsoft company page. I've identified people within Microsoft I want to potentially connect with. And what I'll do is I'll go to their profile. In this example, my immediate reaction is to actually follow. And I opt to follow for two reasons. Number one, I follow because they will immediately be notified in the notification section of their profile that Jennifer Catallo is following them. So I immediately get name recognition. Second, when you follow someone, their posts and anything that they put on LinkedIn will be curated into your own LinkedIn feed so that their posts come to you when you log into LinkedIn that and therefore enable you to engage with them. Then I'll go and look at their activity. Are they particularly active on LinkedIn? And if so, what have they posted recently? I can go to their posts. And in this particular example, I noticed that there's a really interesting post about a dialect, an Inuit dialect that Microsoft is now able to translate. I think this is really, really interesting. And so I might actually engage with this post. I might like it, maybe comment on it, tag someone who might be interested or share it. Again, this particular person will receive a notification in their profile, letting them know that Jennifer Catallo has shared or commented or tagged someone. So again, reinforcing that I'm actually giving something. I'm giving them attention, engagement. I'm showcasing their resources and what they're posting with my network. And so at that point, then I might feel comfortable enough being much more of an introvert myself, to then reach out to connect. Highly important to include a message. In this case, I might say, I spent some time following your work. I love what you're doing. I would really appreciate the opportunity to be part of your LinkedIn network. And then slowly build towards asking to have a quick coffee chat. The third step, perhaps, is the one that most people forget. We often treat relationships as transactional. And what really makes and solidifies a really good network is nurturing those relationships. And you can do this pretty easily on LinkedIn. I have a couple of examples here. You can tag connections, you can praise their work. Let's just go ahead and look at how you can do this. So let's start off with a post. Let's say you wanted to actually start to build your own brand on LinkedIn and post about what you're learning, what you're doing in your role. When you post about a particular subject, you can actually opt to tag someone, maybe someone from your network, who has some insight to offer. In this case, I might post about, having some difficulty learning how to close a sale. Amin, can you help me with that? What would you suggest? Great way to reinforce conversation and engagement. In addition, the other option that you have is that you can actually post on LinkedIn and get a number of different templates. So here you'll see I can add a template that celebrates a particular occasion. So in this example, I could welcome a new member to the team. I could give kudos to someone I've worked on a project with, or there's a new project launch. I can speak to that. All of these options are pre-templated that you can select. And again, they're intended to continue to nurture the relationships with different people within your network. Outside of the posting piece, there are some other strategies to use to continue to nurture your network. One day a quarter, I will typically go to my connections, and I usually have this planned out, and I'll identify a series of connections that I want to, reinvigorate relationships with. So in this case, I've been working well with Michelle and I haven't talked to her in a while. So instead, I'm going to go to her profile and I'm going to endorse her for some skills. I've worked with her regularly, so I know these are the skills that she has. And what will happen is she'll automatically get notified in her notification section that Jennifer Catallo is endorsing her for these skills. What often happens in those really good relationships is people feel compelled to endorse you back. I've never been really comfortable with asking for endorsements or asking for recommendations. I definitely suggest you do that if that's, your strategy. But for me, it's always felt good to give first, and then oftentimes you'll find that you'll receive. In this case, I can give her some kudos or even recommend her for the work that she's done. And oftentimes that will spur people to also recommend you. One of the other strategies that I've used in the past is to, set up a plan once a quarter, however many times that you think would make sense, and really target specific groups of people that I want to maintain relationships with. So we're going to take a couple of minutes and I'm going to ask you to choose your own adventure based on some of the strategies that I've suggested. For those of you who are interested in maybe trying to find and start off with the find piece, follow 2 to 5 different alumni that you have available to you if you use that alumni tool. For others who maybe want to nurture a relationship, endorse a connection for a specific number of skills, maybe their top skills. And then finally, for those of you who are not exactly sure about, following people and getting notifications in their profiles or endorsing someone and making those commitments yet, I'm going to suggest that you at the very least request to join maybe 2 to 3 groups after you search for specific keywords that'll bring you to some groups that might be of interest to you. Hot tip. Joining groups can be pretty valuable, especially since in many cases recruiters join groups. So for instance, there's a large group of project managers And there are a number of recruiters that have joined that group, and they'll often post upcoming opportunities as a way to capture all of the professionals that are within that group in one fell swoop. So I'll give you a couple of minutes to go ahead and do that. And don't hesitate to let us know in the chat how it's going, or if you have any questions in the Q&A.
Yeah, I think it's also a good opportunity for us if you are comfortable to share with the other attendees that your LinkedIn profile link in the chat so you can build connection with each other. We got a question from the chat that he's asking like where we can find alumni option. So actually for this question, you can just go to, hi Jennifer, if you're able to demonstrate alumni again. Alumni, thank you.
So I'm going to go to Carlton. So you want to search for the institution in the search field, and slowly but surely my internet will catch up. And when you get to this page, any school has what's referred to as a school page. Any company has a company page. On a school page, you'll see the alumni tool. It's one of the tabs available to you. No matter what kind of LinkedIn access you have, you'll be able to access the alumni tool. And this is where you'll be able to make those adjustments to filter through and find people within which you would like to build relationships. Perfect. All right. Feel free to continue to work on that as I progress into the next and final section. In this section, Freya is going to use the chat to add a link for those of you who have not had the opportunity to activate your LinkedIn Learning accounts. This would be a great time to do so. And we're going to walk through some of the advantages of LinkedIn Learning, and in particular, how you can actually leverage LinkedIn Learning to help you in building your network. So as we noted at the onset of the presentation, LinkedIn is trying to build this digital representation of the global economy. And in so doing, they recognized at least 5-6 years ago that they could identify, what are these in-demand skills? What are these trending skills? What are these fastest growing skills? But at the same time, they weren't in a position to help professionals or potential graduates in cultivating these skills. And so they looked to a product software that was referred to as lynda.com. And they acquired that software. And over the last couple of years, they have moved what was a lynda.com, which is essentially an online learning platform, into what we now know as LinkedIn Learning. So LinkedIn Learning essentially has upwards of 16,000 pieces of content, or basically what we refer to as courses. Every week, we're adding 60 new courses to the library. The content is curated across 3 different libraries: business, creative, and technology. We have authors that span the globe and are experts in their field. Most, if not all, of the content that gets curated and presented to you when you initially log in is derived from insights from your profile and profiles across LinkedIn, pulling from your title and skills. No other details are shared. In addition, it has a very intuitive interface, and there are some really cool tricks that I'm going to show you, just a couple of tips to use. Once you've completed a course on LinkedIn Learning, you can add a certificate to your LinkedIn profile. In addition, you're going to find a variety of courses from leadership to networking skills and beyond. So let's take a quick look at how we can search through LinkedIn Learning to find a course that might be of value for us, and then how we could potentially use learning as an opportunity to continue to build and maintain and nurture relationships. So in this example, as I've alluded to, I work in the area of sales. So I'm going to go ahead and just quickly search sales. And in there, I see this great course around closing strategies. I recently saw that a colleague had mentioned interest in this on LinkedIn. And so I'm going to actually share this course to that colleague. I can actually share this publicly to my entire network. And what you're able to do is you can make it free for someone for a 24-hour period. So what a great way, once you've made a connection with someone on LinkedIn, to share a course with them and to give them access to a course that they can then leverage to learn about a particular area of interest. In addition to that particular tip, when it comes to leveraging LinkedIn Learning to really support your networking, to encourage you to use LinkedIn Learning to talk through how you're learning and what you're learning, my favorite component to LinkedIn Learning is the separate app that's available. So you can go to your app store and download LinkedIn Learning. And in the app store, when you download LinkedIn Learning, you can actually download the courses. So you don't need Wi-Fi or any kind of connection. You can take those courses with you anywhere you go. So oftentimes I'll take a break in the afternoon, throw on a course, and go for a walk, especially with courses around leadership, management, diversity, and inclusion. I can treat them like podcasts, and many of them are set up so that you can avoid having the video on and just listen to the audio to really start to capture additional ways of learning and additional ways of looking at the world. So here's our takeaway exercise for this section. And then I'd love to hear if there are any questions around how to use LinkedIn Learning. But the first one is really, I'm going to challenge you to go ahead and log in to LinkedIn Learning. And the first thing that you can do is set up a weekly goal. What this will allow you to do is set up a goal of 15 minutes a week or even 30 minutes a week. The system will essentially send you an email to remind you to go back into LinkedIn Learning to reach that goal. The second option is I'm asking you to log into LinkedIn Learning and then save 2 courses. There are so many courses to search through, and I'd love to hear anyone's interest in specific areas that I can go to. But 2 highlight courses for me is the Rock Your LinkedIn Profile, which will go through and give you some more insight on how to set that baseline for your profile. And then another one, which is referred to as Learning LinkedIn Recruiter. So if you want some insight into what recruiters are doing on LinkedIn, we sell LinkedIn Recruiter software. And this is a really effective course to watch. Put yourself in the mindset of a recruiter and better understand the software that they're using, which will help you really set up your profiles for success. And then option number 3, please log into LinkedIn Learning and create a collection. And I'd love you to consider focusing on courses associated with networking. So simply use the networking search in the search field and identify some courses and add them to a collection that you can watch later. We'll take a couple of minutes to give you the time to go ahead and identify one of these takeaway exercises and go ahead and try to log into LinkedIn Learning and engage in any of these.
Yeah, please check in the chat. I have put the activation link here, so you can click the link and log into your LinkedIn Learning account.
Thanks, Freya.
Okay, well, we are waiting. I'd like to ask, do we still have time? Because we got a question from the Q&A that this alumni and this student wants to ask about the open to features. So if you have time, maybe we can touch on that feature a little bit.
You got it.
Okay, thank you.
So while those of you who are logging into LinkedIn Learning and looking for either setting up your weekly goal or looking for those courses I suggested or creating a collection of networking courses, for those of you who are interested, here is where you'll see open to work. So when you go to your profile, you'll see this little icon here. This little pencil icon that allows you to make adjustments to this area. This is where you can record your audio. You will see this new feature that is, I don't know if it's fully ramped and fully available as of yet, but it was introduced where you can include pronouns. And you'll also see a new feature that will come up, which will allow you to include a welcome video. Here you'll see an open to work. You can select open to work. And basically what you're doing is you're sharing to recruiters, and you can do this from the settings area as well. You're sharing with recruiters that you're open to opportunities. I have mine set there. I'm particularly happy at LinkedIn, but I mean, I'm always interested to learn about other opportunities. There's also an option that will allow you to select open to work, which will frame your profile picture. So that one is a valuable option, particularly if you want your network to know that you're open to work. That will inform your network that you are interested in opportunities. Are there any other questions in the chat, Freya? All right, so we have a little less than 10 minutes left within the session. I'd love to open it up for Q&A. I'm happy to do any demonstrations to support learning on any of the items we've discussed or anything that is top of mind for you.
Oh, we just got a fresh new question from Q&A that can you hide the open to work from non-hiring managers?
Oh, yes. So the open to work will not be available to hiring managers at your organization. They won't be able to see that. And recruiters at your organization will also not be able to see that. If, however, you put it on your profile, everyone in your network will see that. So that's why I've opted to not put open to work on my profile picture. Instead, I've put it as a selected option from my settings to inform recruiters of my interest to be introduced to opportunities. Are there any other questions or anyone who has any interest in seeing anything demonstrated that hasn't been demonstrated? Please let us know.
Hi, Jennifer. We just got a new question that Kuna asked that are there any tips that you have on choosing a header image, the photo behind your profile photo?
Yes. So depending on how much you spend time designing things, you can get pretty swept away by these options, but you'll notice mine is a template that I borrowed from Canva. So if you go to canva.ca, there is an option, and this is really available. You can set up an account so you can have access to anything that you create. But if you go ahead and put LinkedIn in the search within canva.ca, you'll see there's a couple of different items. So they actually have, if you're interested in creating LinkedIn stories or LinkedIn posts, they have these different designs that you can use. So right here is the LinkedIn banner. So you can choose ones that are free, or you can pay prescription, like an option for paid features. But you'll notice there are a series of different ones that you can choose from. And when you choose them, you can then use that as a template and make adjustments and customize it in a way that's meaningful for you. When you've opted for one and you've made your adjustments, you can essentially download the picture, and it's automatically ratioed properly to fit within the LinkedIn banner section. Great. So unless there are any other questions that are coming in, I'm going to just really take the opportunity to thank you all for spending some time with us today and going through today's sessions. And hopefully you gained at least maybe 1 or 2 tips and tricks that you might be able to use. And don't hesitate to connect with Freya and I on LinkedIn.
Yeah, just got a very fresh new question that are there any resources that you can share on LinkedIn post ideas? This is a really great one.
Yeah, there's actually a great course on LinkedIn Learning that goes through and talks about some really good content and how to really navigate options for different types of content. But I'm happy in a follow-up to share some really good examples and additional resources that Jennifer can share with everyone there.
Thank you.
Wonderful. So thank you so much, Jennifer and Freya. We just have a few minutes left, so I want to give people a few minutes just to transition between their afternoon activities. But thank you so much for delivering this LinkedIn workshop for us today. I know I learned a lot. I hope our attendees learned a lot. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. This was a really useful session. We will provide the link to the recording and some of those high-level follow-up information for all of you for some takeaways. We also need to do the draw, if that's okay, Jennifer and Freya. So I've broken up the list of attendees between alumni and students. So Jennifer, perhaps if you don't mind choosing, first we'll do student prize for the one-on-one profile consultation. So if you don't mind choosing 3 numbers between 1 and 15.
Okay. 1, 7, 12.
Okay, so Andrea, 7, Jacqueline and Bill Parsons are our student profile consultation winners. And if you don't mind choosing a number between 1 and 10 for our alumni.
2, 4, 10.
2, 4, 10. Okay, so Shanpreet, Lindsay, and George are our LinkedIn Learning 6-month subscription winners. So I will follow up with each of you about claiming your prize and connecting you to Jennifer and Freya. So again, thank you so much to everyone. I hope everyone stays safe, takes good care, and has a really good upcoming long weekend. I look forward to being in touch with our mentorship community about our next workshop in the coming weeks about giving and receiving feedback. If you have any questions about mentorship, areas for career support, or LinkedIn, you do have support. I'm happy to connect you with the appropriate contact, so please reach out to me, and I'm happy to assist. So thanks again, everyone. Have a great afternoon.